Today, a huge portion of the phones, cars, and televisions we use are connected to one country, South Korea. Samsung, Hyundai, LG, Kia. These brands are recognized all over the world. But just 70 years ago, South Korea was a country devastated by war, with a per capita income comparable to some of the poorest nations on Earth. So how did this small country become one of the world's economic powerhouses? In this video, we'll take a step-by-step look at South Korea's remarkable economic transformation, and how a war-torn country managed to build some of the world's most powerful companies and advanced industries. For the visuals in this section, we can show South Korea's location on a world map, nighttime footage of Seoul, the logos of Samsung, Hyundai, LG, and Kia, archival footage from the Korean War between 1950 and 1953, images of the destruction left behind by the war, and modern shots of Seoul's skyscrapers. We can also use side-by-side comparisons between old and modern footage, combined with smooth transitions, to make the transformation more visually striking. When the armistice was signed in 1953, South Korea was physically and economically devastated. Much of the country's infrastructure had been destroyed. Industrial capacity was extremely limited, and per capita income was among the lowest in the world. A large portion of the population lived in rural areas, where agriculture was relatively unproductive. The country had a young and growing population, but access to education was still limited. South Korea was starting almost from scratch. What happened next would determine the country's future for decades to come. When the war ended in 1953, South Korea faced a difficult choice. It could remain trapped in poverty for decades, or it could build an entirely new development model. During the early post-war years, the economy relied heavily on U.S. aid to survive. But the real transformation began in 1961, when General Park Chung-hee came to power. Park had a clear goal: South Korea would not remain a primarily agricultural economy. The country would industrialize. Factories would be built, production would increase, and, most importantly, South Korea would start selling its products to the rest of the world. The government introduced a series of 5-year economic development plans, deciding which industries should receive support and which products the country should focus on exporting. South Korea's limited financial resources were directed toward industries with the potential to generate higher value and foreign currency. Banks provided low-interest loans, export-oriented companies received incentives, and businesses were encouraged to compete in international markets. The strategy was simple but extremely ambitious: produce more, export more, invest more. Within a relatively short period of time, production expanded rapidly in industries such as textiles, shipbuilding, steel, and electronics. South Korea was no longer simply producing enough to meet its own needs. It was becoming an export-driven manufacturing powerhouse. For this section, we can use 1960s footage of Seoul's streets, archival footage of Park Chung-hee, old factories and production lines, cargo being loaded at Korean ports, and simple animated graphics showing the rapid growth of South Korea's exports. During the 1960s, the South Korean government made another important decision. Instead of trying to grow the economy through the state alone, it decided to support large private companies and help them become globally competitive industrial groups. These huge family-controlled business groups became known as chaebols. The government provided them with low-interest loans, tax incentives, and access to financing. In return, these companies were expected to meet ambitious production and export targets. And there was an important condition: if they failed to perform, government support could be withdrawn. One of the best examples is Samsung. Today, Samsung is one of the world's most valuable technology brands. But the company began in 1938 as a small trading business, selling products such as rice, dried fish, and other food items. Over the following decades, Samsung expanded into textiles, insurance, electronics, and eventually semiconductors, transforming itself into the global technology giant we know today. Hyundai followed a different but equally remarkable path. It started as a construction company and later entered the automobile industry. In its early years, Hyundai relied heavily on foreign technology. But over time, it invested heavily in engineering and research, developing its own technological capabilities and eventually becoming one of the world's major automobile manufacturers. LG went through a similar transformation. Its early businesses included cosmetics and household chemicals. Later, the company moved into electronics and became a global player in televisions, home appliances, displays, and other advanced technologies. The success of these companies did more than simply make Samsung, Hyundai, and LG bigger. They created entire industrial ecosystems around themselves. Thousands of suppliers, subcontractors, component manufacturers, and technology companies emerged to support these giants. The result was a powerful manufacturing network that created millions of jobs and helped South Korea develop sophisticated industrial capabilities. But the chaebol model also had its critics. Concentrating so much economic power in the hands of a small number of large family-controlled companies sometimes limited competition and raised concerns about their political influence. Even so, many economists agree that the chaebol system played a major role in South Korea's rapid industrialization. The country had managed to turn a handful of ambitious companies into global competitors, and, in the process, transform its entire economy.